So Leon, we've opened the room. We have databees that are coming in right now, and I'm just about to get started here with our presentation and tell everyone how this is all going to work and what the Hive think tank does. Okay, we've got people from New York and Vermont too. Okay, great. So we have not just Southern California. We've got some more regional areas to explore too. Ravi, do you mind pulling up the slides for me? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Maddie Watt. I am the Senior Manager of People and Programs at the Hive, and I help lead the think tank. If this is your first time with the think tank, hello and welcome. If you are a returning data bee, hey, nice to see you again. Okay, so thank you, Ravi. I'm going to just tell you really briefly what the Hive think tank does, and I'm also going to just let you guys know the ground rules for today's webinar. So first of all, we're super excited to have you guys today. We're so excited to be talking about space and the space economy. This is a series of events you guys are going to be super happy you signed up for. Just to remind you, we love questions and we definitely want you to ask them, but please use the Q&A button for Leon. That will make it easier and all the questions will be in one area. And if you're on social media, please use the hashtag HiveData. We love seeing what you guys are tweeting about and sharing on social media. And we love being a part of the conversation. So without further ado, the Hive think tank, we are an ecosystem of entrepreneurs, corporations, and thought leaders. We are bringing you events, and we are also publishing blog posts to try and open up the conversation around things related to AI, data, blockchain, and even things like space. So we're super excited to be bringing you guys these events pretty much every week or every other week. And if you want to stay up to date, you need to join our meetup group. I will drop all these links for you guys, don't worry, but please sign up to join our meetup group. Thank you, Ravi. And thanks to our sponsors. If you want to get involved with us, please email me. I'll drop my email in the chat. And last but not least, I want to tell you guys about 2 events that we've got coming up. We are releasing the links very soon, within the next couple of days. So definitely check back and I can send the links to you guys in an email. But we're going to be doing another event with the Hive Southeast Asia on Wednesday, the 19th. And then we have our next event. Next slide. Thank you so much, Ravi. We have our returning guest speaker, Steve Omohundro, who is absolutely brilliant. And I think Steve is on this call right now. So hey, Steve, if you're there, we're going to be talking about the future of AI and how the future of AI and data and algorithms, it's going to be more in the generative, not discriminative sort of vein. I am not going to spoil the conversation and I'll let Steve explain it, but it's going to be an incredible conversation. So I really hope you guys can join us. With all that being said, I'm going to give the mic to TM Ravi. Thank you guys for being here. And just to remind everyone who's joining now, Leon has some guest speakers with him, his little dogs. So if you guys hear them, don't worry, it's okay. And without further ado, Ravi, thanks guys.
Thank you, Maddie. Just a brief introduction of the Hive. So Maddie here is responsible for the Hive think tank, which is a thought leadership forum on all things entrepreneurship, deep tech, data, AI, and so on. And the Hive think tank is part of the Hive. The Hive is a venture capital fund. It is a particular subclass of venture capital, which is called a venture studio. And we're very focused on leveraging data and AI to drive transformation across a broad set of industries. And you can see sort of examples of those industries. If you are an entrepreneur, we would love to hear from you. Reach out to Maddie or reach out to me, and we'd love to engage with you. We are also, in addition to our presence in US, we have a presence in different parts of the world. And so we have an entity in Brazil, in India, more recently in collaboration with the government of Malaysia, we have created the Hive Southeast Asia, and we are exploring the Hive MENA in collaboration with Saudi Aramco and other related entities later this year. And keep your eyes open for what we are doing in the Hive Europe. I'd like to, today, I'm very excited to have my very good friend, Leon Alkali. We both went to school and did our PhDs together at UCLA a long, long time ago. And so while I kind of went down sort of the entrepreneurship kind of journey, Leon went to JPL and did a number of exciting things that he's going to talk about today. Most recently, he has left JPL, where he was a fellow, to now move to venture capital and similar to the Hive, a venture studio called Astrolabs. So with that, I'd like to introduce Leon Alkali.
Thank you, Ravi, so much. Please, can you confirm that you can see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, wonderful. And actually nice to see, thank you, first of all, Ravi and Maddie and the whole crew at the Hive. It's a pleasure and to be here, and certainly an honor. And I'm very excited to have this opportunity. And as you mentioned, Ravi, we went down different paths. I went to JPL, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, California Institute of Technology, and really had a great time for 32 years working at JPL. It's really been marvelous. And what I will do today is talk about entrepreneurship in space. And for the last 32 years, I've really been involved in space science, which is really the main purpose of NASA and JPL, is to do space science. And but I have been a part-time entrepreneur, as I'll explain a little bit as I go forward. And as of a few months ago, I decided to retire from JPL and enter full-time the world of entrepreneurship. So this is my entry, and I want to thank everybody on the entrepreneurial side of this ecosystem for welcoming me and my team. It is, for me, a new beginning, and I hope to bring a new perspective from my prior career working at JPL. I want to start with this kind of visionary view that is really inspirational to me, and I want to just start with more of a philosophical view of space. So in this beautiful picture, you see the Milky Way, you see stars and a fellow person kind of gazing into the skies. And to me, this picture is kind of timeless. This could be centuries old, or it could be in the future. But it's really kind of depicting the relationship that we've had as humanity between ourselves and the cosmos, the universe. And it really is raising questions that have been existential questions for centuries or millennia, such as, are we alone? Are there other civilizations out there? Is there somebody looking at us as we are looking up at them? And it's really a question that has been around for forever, really, and still continue. How did we get here? Where are we going? Are we alone? And so on. And what's remarkable about this picture is if you ever come to JPL, to the Von Karman Auditorium right behind the Voyager model, you see a huge mural, a picture, a narrow angle picture from the Hubble Space Telescope, just a small sliver of the sky. And in that big mural, you literally see thousands and thousands of dots, much like here, but thousands of dots. Some of the more brighter dots are stars in our Milky Way galaxy, but many of the other dots are other galaxies that have billions of stars in them. And it kind of gives you a little bit of a perspective that we are in a dot that in a galaxy, in somebody else's view, perhaps. And it kind of gives you a perspective of where we are, who we are, and perhaps where we're going in the cosmos. And so that's kind of the beginning of this lecture, going from kind of the philosophical to the more practical. I will give you a little introduction to myself and a little bit to the new venture that I'm starting with my team. And then also I plan to share with you a lot of insights from the future of entrepreneurship, specifically targeting space. So for the last 32 years, I literally have referred to JPL as my home away from home. Sometimes I spend more hours a day here than at home. And it's been a great 32 years. This is JPL recently, and about 6,000 people work here. A large fraction of them PhDs, masters in engineers and business development and others working at JPL, located a few miles north of Caltech in the city of La Cañada. JPL is a laboratory of Caltech. In fact, JPL was founded in 1936 before NASA. And it still remains a laboratory of the California Institute of Technology. It is a NASA federally funded research and development center. NASA has a contract with Caltech called the Prime Contract that gets renewed every 5 years or recompeted, frankly, every 5 or 10 years. And most recently, Caltech signed a $30 billion 10-year contract to manage JPL for NASA. And so that's a pretty big contract. It is a unique location and a unique organization in the world, specializing in space science and robotic space exploration primarily. Many of the missions that you know about, not all, but many of them that are in the solar system have been built by JPL, but including other NASA centers like Goddard Space Flight Center, and also our other sister organizations, including a non-NASA applied physics lab as well. So what I'd like to share with you a little bit, on the bottom of each slide when I present, I'll show a link to some additional information. My career at JPL has started with going into advanced computing for deep space applications. That's how I started 32 years ago. I transitioned into technology development for microsystems, microelectromechanical systems and others, and then went into program management, product management, then I spent a good 15 years of my career in what is called mission formulation, creating new missions through competitions. And to my credit, I have missions like Grail mission to the moon, InSight lander on Mars, but I've worked on many other opportunities. In the last 5 years or so, I focused on strategic planning and strategic partnerships. My last position was as manager of strategic partnerships at JPL. And at the bottom here, you'll see a reference that is a public document that you can download called JPL Strategic Implementation Plan, which is available to everybody who wants to download that. And that lays out the vision, the strategy, the implementation plan for JPL over the next 10 or 20 years. As of a few months ago, I decided to retire from JPL and pursue entrepreneurship in space full time. And I'll tell you much more about that. One of the first cases I want to highlight for you is that I have been a part-time entrepreneur working at JPL. And the story behind this is very interesting and to me and exciting. It was about in early 2014 that I was in the cafeteria at JPL. And there was not an empty table for me to sit at, and I just joined a friendly face that I knew, but I did not know very well. His name is Adrian Ponce at JPL, Dr. Adrian Ponce, and we just sat together having lunch as one does every day before COVID and after COVID, and we just started chatting. And then after a little bit, we shared with each other that we were both interested in doing something entrepreneurial. And Adrian had initiated an SBIR that he got awarded through the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. He had hired a postdoc from Caltech, and he ran out of money. The postdoc was about to leave, and he had some ideas about how to commercialize a technology that was developed for planetary protection. In NASA terminology, this is a technology that is used to protect Mars or other planets that may have had or may have today life from contaminants from Earth. So the Curiosity rover that you see here would have to be sterilized before it is sent to Mars. So there were a number of technologies that were built, that were developed at JPL and Caltech, a number of people who worked on a bunch of ideas. And so, and Adrian was in many cases, the lead in those patents. And so we decided to license those from Caltech and start up a company called Verix. In fact, it was already initiated by Adrian in 2013. So what we did together, we were co-founders, co-CEOs for a few years. We raised a seed round for Verix, co-located a few people, a small group at the Pasadena Biosciences Collaborative, just a few miles from Caltech. And soon we hired a full-time CEO, raised a Series A round of financing, and so on and so on. Today, this company is doing well. It moved to San Clemente, and it is in the business of sterilization of hospital equipment based on technology that was developed at JPL and Caltech for planetary protection. And this is basically a fast reading ultraviolet camera that can image and detect the early growth of spores. And that can be used to detect contaminants, but it can also be used to detect whether a sterilization process in hospitals has worked well or not, a critical technology today. That was the first a detailed example that I went through as a co-founder of a startup company like Verix, together with Dr. Adrian Ponce. But after that was well on its way, I was wondering what more could I be doing in this world of entrepreneurship? And I started questioning why aren't there more startup companies coming out of JPL? What is really holding back this whole opportunity? And what I realized was that the amount of technologies that are available, and I shouldn't just focus on JPL, this goes for any other NASA center or other national laboratories. There's a lot of technologies that are available that are being developed by the US government, by places like Darpa or NASA or NSF, and a lot of money and a lot of investment going into technologies for space. I thought I'd highlight one of them here. I'm not going to play the video, but you can look up the YouTube. In the top left, there's a program called the Darpa Subterranean Challenge, where recently a group of roboticists from JPL won the first prize competition in the Darpa competition, Grand Challenge competition, to autonomously explore underground caves, subterranean structures, using only robots and AI. This group is called CoStar, and it's a team of Caltech, JPL, MIT, and a group from Korea. And so they've developed a lot of technologies in the area of robotics and AI. Below that, you see another example of robots that can be used in fire management or disaster management, multi-purpose robots that can drive, climb, walk, and so on. On the top right, you see the Mars helicopter, which recently, as you know, all went through a Kitty Hawk moment multiple times on Mars. And in the bottom right corner, you have a unique facility at JPL called the Micro Devices Lab, which produces really first of a kind detectors. And I could have easily listed maybe another 100 areas where technologies are being developed at NASA and other national laboratories. But one of the things I would like to also share with you is that in the last year of my career at JPL, I had the pleasure of also working with a group that produced a NASA ventilator or JPL ventilator in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the reason that relates to entrepreneurship is, as you will see, what this group did at JPL was really entrepreneurial, very much entrepreneurial, and kind of reinvented itself within a national laboratory that never before produced a medical ventilator, or even never before produced a medical device as its core competence. So what happened about just over a year ago is that there was a sense of urgency. There was a sense of urgency that the world, the country, is in dire need of medical ventilators to serve very sick patients in the ICUs. A group of people, David Van Buren, Rob Manning, a few others, reached out to me and a few others of us and basically said, why can't we help? Can we help? We should be able to do something really quickly and give to the public some quality ventilators to save lives. What happened was in the coming weeks was truly extraordinary, and it fully applies to entrepreneurship in space. What you see here in the top left is a prototyping laboratory. You see Michael Johnson on the right. We basically had to get advice from doctors. In the right-hand side, you see Dr. Mike Gurovich staring at a screen with Dr. Matt Levin in New York City. And also you see Stacy Boland on the other screen of the computer on the right on two of the robots. And the doctors were telling us exactly what they would like to see built. They were giving us requirements. They were teaching us what a ventilator does, how it does, and how it would work. And we knew from the beginning that we need to get FDA approval. So this was not intended to be something that you buy at Home Depot. It was something to actually go through the FDA approval process. Well, within a few weeks, we had 2 different prototypes. And then within another week or 2, we had a fully functioning prototype demonstrated at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. And just to give credit to the team, this is the team. 90% of us worked from home. Only about 10% of the team worked in laboratories at JPL with all the approvals required. Within 40 days, we had FDA approval. So in less than 2 months, we had FDA approval through the emergency use authorization. And then we embarked on a campaign to reach out to the world through Caltech and give the license free to anybody who can show the minimum capacity to commercialize. So we licensed to 28 companies around the world, 5 in India, 3 in Brazil, 8 in the US, and all the others were including Egypt, Malaysia, Australia, Canada, Mexico, Armenia, Turkey, and many more. And so this to me was a beautiful example of entrepreneurship. And what people like to remind me is that we had a few things that were perhaps unique. One is we more or less had an infinite pool of talent. We literally, everybody wanted to work on this project. We also had kind of a blank check. Both of those are not necessarily typical in an entrepreneurial situation. But a few things were. One is that we had a sense of urgency. Every day we had a sense of urgency that we need to save lives and we need to rush to get this into the marketplace. The other thing that relates to entrepreneurship in space that I really think is important is that all of this was done through hard work and innovation. No new technologies were developed in this process. In fact, all the technologies existed. There were challenges in the supply chain. We had to keep away from any existing ventilator supply chain. So we were getting very creative, very innovative, using no new technologies. And I think that's the key to entrepreneurship in space. And as you'll see in the remainder of my presentation, a lot of the technologies are already either under development or have been developed by the US government, not just NASA, but Air Force, DOD, many other organizations in the US and elsewhere have been investing in new technologies that are applicable to space entrepreneurship. So after working on this project, and here somewhere you see me here in the top, Roger Gibbs, who was the project manager for the first few months, and then I took over, and this is the rest of the team, a pretty big team that jumped on to doing this, this project. As of a few months ago, I decided to enter the world of entrepreneurship full-time. To me, this is very exciting. I hope to be of value to this community and to this ecosystem, and especially with a deep knowledge of the industry, of the space industry, albeit coming from space science, but deep knowledge of the space technology. The vision is to build a startup venture studio focused on the growing commercial space economy. You'll see a lot about that, and solving problems on Earth using space technology. So the vision is not only to launch things into space, but also to solve problems on Earth using space technology. The general structure of Astrolabs is shown here. This is not new or unusual in the studio incubation or studio incubator world. This is more or less common, that you have a space or studio, and then you have an affiliate fund or funds or investors, and then you have strategic partners. And the Hive is also organized in a very similar way. And what I'm focused on is building this studio, defining this innovation, incubation, launch cadence, sourcing IP, sourcing investment, and launching new companies. New companies can be launched either from within the studio, but also companies that are entering the studio from outside that have perhaps been incubated elsewhere. The other thing we're trying to do is to not play the numbers game. We do not expect to have many dozens of companies a year. We expect to keep this number fairly low, maybe 2 or 3 companies a year. That seems to be the right comfort level that we have. On our venture side, we've also started looking carefully at all the verticals in the space entrepreneurial business. And you'll see a lot of them in the next slides, from data, software, platforms, in-space assets, emerging space transportation, and much more. So with that, what I plan to do in the remaining time is just go rather quickly through a series of examples of where new emerging technologies are going to make a huge difference, in my opinion, to the world of space entrepreneurship. And many of those may be obvious to some, but I expect there'll be a few surprises as well. So let me start with the following. You all have most likely seen and heard of the last couple of months of the successful landing of the Perseverance rover. It is actually the first element in a Mars sample return series of missions. So the Perseverance rover will drill bits of rock, leave them on the surface of Mars for a future mission soon to be sent, that will collect those samples, bring them to a sample, an ascent vehicle, launch them into orbit in Mars. Another vehicle will pick them up and bring them back to Earth, and so on and so on. And most of you have seen the recent news about the Mars helicopter, which is just fabulous. But it has not received a lot of attention, but there's been a major development in the last couple of weeks. On April 20th, MOXIE produced oxygen from carbon dioxide in the Martian atmosphere by using solid oxide electrolysis. This is an instrument. The PI is Michael Hecht, a very close friend of mine from MIT. And also my good friend Adrian Ponce worked on this as well. And this is really a breakthrough. This is a first of a kind demonstration of in situ resource utilization on another planetary body. It produced oxygen, pure oxygen, out of the atmosphere of Mars. This is enabling for future human exploration of Mars, not only for human consumption, but for use by fuel, as a fuel for returning vehicles from Mars and so on. But it's not only Mars. In situ resource utilization in other forms are applicable to the Moon, and other destinations in our solar system. So just the whole field of in situ resource utilization is a large area of growth, in my opinion, when it comes to entrepreneurial space. You all know and have seen the Mars helicopter. I did not want to show yet again the video from the actual footage, but I wanted to bring your attention to something that is most probably not gaining enough attention and likely will in the future. The actual controller, one of the controllers on the Mars helicopter is a Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. To me, this is a breakthrough. This is an engine, a compute engine, and that is coming out of the commercial automotive industry from the Qualcomm processor, Snapdragon processor that is used for control and navigation of the Mars helicopter. This is a breakthrough. This is a first of a kind. This computation engine has much more compute power than the Mars Perseverance rover. And it is a first of a kind demonstration of high performance computing, albeit on a single chip on another planetary body. And it is just a phenomenal development. Another example that I believe is a breakthrough: in a few years, NASA will launch the Psyche mission. This is a mission to an iron core asteroid. And recently in the press, that's been getting a lot of attention, but not for the reason I will mention here. A lot of attention is given to the fact that NASA is going to rendezvous and image and detail a iron core asteroid, which could be itself a source of resources for humanity. There are options or abilities and capabilities to return samples, return asteroids back to Earth, not necessarily this big, but certainly can be done. But what I want to bring to your attention is that this mission is going to demonstrate for the first time optical, deep space optical communication from the asteroid belt, which is beyond Mars. And so this is really a phenomenal development. So the whole field of optical communication is, to me, a rising technology that is going to enable new opportunities in the area of broadband communication around Earth. Already, there's been some technology transfer in the area of optical communication that has been made to a company called Analytical Space. PI at JPL is Jose Velasco. And there are other opportunities in the pipeline, but this is an area of optical communication that is certainly going to change the landscape of entrepreneurial space around Earth and planetary. The area of access to space is a huge, huge field. One can spend days talking about this topic. There's so much movement in the launch vehicle business, and it's driven by a number of factors. Additive manufacturing is certainly an enabling capability. NASA and JPL has invested a lot in metal-based additive manufacturing. There's a lot of movement in this field, both for vertical takeoff, but also in the area of horizontal takeoff. Our studio and venture fund has been looking carefully at Radiant Aerospace as an opportunity for really advancing the state of the art in horizontal takeoff, which has been a dream for many over the last decades, to develop a single stage to orbit a horizontal takeoff vehicle for lower Earth orbit. And if that were to advance, it would certainly be a game changer for the industry. But not only horizontal or vertical takeoff vehicles, there's other companies entering the business of space tugs, last mile delivery, companies like Momentous Space, D-Orbit, and many others are entering into this world of access to space and delivery of assets to space to the last mile delivery. So a lot of movement in this area. Another area worth following is on-orbit space assembly and manufacturing. Recently, the Air Force Research Labs awarded contracts to startup companies in this area. There is a national initiative in the area of on-orbit space assembly and manufacturing. Certainly the advances in robotics are enabling this technology to advance. There are a number of startup companies, including a company called Varda, that is looking at manufacturing in space and bringing back samples or bringing back products developed in space. This is applicable not only to growth of materials and crystals, but also proteins and pharmaceuticals. So a lot of interest in this area of manufacturing in space. Another huge area that is changing the landscape of space entrepreneurship is power. There are a number of areas that are worth looking into, and I've listed some of the technologies that are emerging. The whole field of power collection and beaming is growing very fast. A number of things are enabling in this field, and one that I listed here is the whole field of solar array technologies. If you look up the emerging field of perovskites, this is only about a decade old, and it's enabling very low cost, a new semiconductor technology that is enabling low cost applications in space using solar arrays. But also there's a lot of movement in the area of nuclear power in space, whether it's nuclear thermal propulsion, as recently awarded by Darpa to Blue Origins and General Atomics, but also there's work in advancement of nuclear fission for power, and there's work going on at Princeton in nuclear fusion combined with electric propulsion as a source of power as well. And so a lot of movement in the area of nuclear and a lot of movement in the area of advanced solar technology. Another field that's worth keeping track of is large deployable structures. A lot of work in this field at Caltech. I've listed Professors Pellegrino and Harry Atwater as sources for this technology at Caltech, but also there's a very good survey of large deployable structures in space that are also changing the landscape. As of today, companies like Umbra are using deployable structures for radar applications, but in the future for communications, large antennas, for power, large solar arrays, all are enabled by large deployable structures. This is not necessarily a technology, but certainly a major driver for the entrepreneurial community. Recently awarded, SpaceX, the human lander system got $2.9 billion for the next human lander system on the moon. And there's a lot more going on, driven by the NASA Artemis program. And this is intended, obviously, for a long-term settlement on the moon. So this would, the kind of entrepreneurial opportunities include power on the moon, infrastructure on the moon, shelters, navigation, communications. There are startup companies in Europe, in Italy, UK, in the US, all looking at communication architectures around the moon for navigation, GPS at the moon, and more. So also we're aware of startup companies looking at power beaming and providing solar energy to assets on the surface of the moon. So a lot of activity in this area. Another topic that we're following carefully is the whole area of space traffic management. I've listed a few key references here. The National Space Council, which is now chaired by Vice President Kamala Harris, has as a space policy directive number 3 to advance and solve the problem of space situational awareness, space traffic management, space traffic control, given all the debris that is currently growing and currently in around low Earth orbit and beyond. A lot of work emerging in this area, a lot of startup companies, including Leo Labs, Astroscale, and many others who are looking not only to monitor, but to remove debris from space. So a lot of movement in this area going forward. I thought I'd get a few chuckles out of the group here, and also tell you that there is a lot of movement possibly in blockchain in space. And maybe there are no chuckles. This is real serious. There are a lot of things that space enables when it comes to payment and electronic ledgers and blockchain in space. One is an existing distributed architecture amongst constellations of satellites. High bandwidth optical communication, as I mentioned, is emerging. And then the natural ability of quantum communications to be coupled with optical comm to provide for a high bandwidth secure network. Also, as I mentioned, computing in space is becoming more available, and there are technologies to provide high capacity memory storage in space that are emerging. And I will leave this community with a last topic that I would like to share with you, and it is the first launch of our from our studio. We have just 2 weeks ago started a new company. I'm purposely being a little bit stealth with the name because we are in the process of rebranding the name, but it is a software as a service platform for the space community, from early mission design, including operations and data analysis. It's all software. It's hardware agnostic, but it is a platform that we intend for early stage startup companies to use, but also for latter stage operational companies as well. And this company has just closed its $3 million seed round financing, and is now operational, and the company name will be announced very soon. So with that, checking the time, I would like to thank the audience for listening to me all this time, and I'm happy to take any questions from the listeners. Thank you, Maddie.
Great. So we are going to just turn off Leon's screen so he can open up the Q&A. You guys have some great questions. I saw a couple of questions in the chat. If you guys could just please use the Q&A button so it's easy for Leon to see. So that way it's not lost in the chat. Thanks, guys. Leon, are you turning off your screen? I still see it.
Oh, should I turn off my screen? Okay.
There you go. Great. And then you have that Q&A button open?
I do, and I'm even
Perfect.
able to see them. So there, should I just go down these questions and answer them?
Sure, please do.
Yeah, so the first question is any research on mining for elements as raw material for 3D printers? The answer is yes. NASA has actually had a competition recently, the last couple of years, on just that topic, how to use resources on the moon, especially, but also on Mars, as a source for 3D printing of structures on Moon and Mars. So there's, if you look for that topic, there was a NASA Grand Challenge, and I believe, I can't remember if MIT was one of the winners or Caltech, but so there clearly is interest in that field of using materials sourced in situ for 3D printers. So that's definitely available, and people are looking into that. I don't know that it's a solved problem, but it's certainly a worth looking into, but the answer is yes. What is the difference between the incubator that we're starting or the studio versus what exists? So there are a few that exist in this field. There are most notably Techstars, Stardust, Starburst, and a few others. Our unique ability will be to really, more like the Hive, we plan to launch only a few companies a year and really get deep into the technical, participate with the companies in solving technical problems or assisting them, and more on a closer level of engagement. So it will be fewer companies with more of an in-house deep technical dive and deep technical assistance. That's kind of our unique take on that. What is the typical licensing structure for JPL technology, similar to Caltech? Well, that's an interesting question. It is actually not similar to Caltech. It is Caltech. JPL does not license this separately. JPL is part of Caltech, so the JPL Technology Transfer Office is really part of the Caltech technology transfer. So you cannot license from JPL. You license from Caltech. So that's an easy one. Yes, 125 megabits per second from the asteroid. I believe that's the lower bound. It's actually up to 400 megabits per second. That was one of the questions about the bandwidth from on Psyche's deep space optical comm. So there are questions about, where do I start to create my new venture in aerospace? I would say, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll be happy to network you. And let me look at another one. You have touched on solar power satellites. What are the biggest challenges associated with making this a reality from your perspective? I'm going to take that question. This is a question that is asked, and we just finished. John Brophy, Harry Atwater, Sergio Pellegrino led a study at the Keck Institute for Space Studies, or KISS. You can look that up, on the topic of using solar energy deep into our solar system. So Neptune and Uranus. Right now, we are using solar energy at Jupiter. So Juno is at Jupiter using solar energy. And we do have studies for using solar panels and solar energy at Saturn. Hasn't been done yet, but certainly is in the works. And this study at the Keck Institute looked at how to use solar energy at Neptune and Uranus, and it can be done. It can be done with large deployable structures, with perovskite solar arrays, and with another few, let's say, miracles that still need to be worked. But there is certainly an opportunity to use solar energy using solar concentrators and other techniques at the edge of our solar system. But certainly there is a diminishing return, and for further out, you need to use nuclear power. Okay. The question is, I missed this, but is Astrolabs providing funding for the space startups? The answer is yes. We have a venture fund. It's still at its beginning, and the intent is for the venture fund to be the early investor in the startups in Astrolabs. So the venture fund we're in the process of raising is a $20 million venture fund. And then Astrolabs as a studio also has some investment possibility more for studies and for the early stage incubation. But the answer is yes. The incubator or studio itself would have funding to invest in the startup companies. So I think I've answered these questions. I'm an entrepreneur. Where do I start? So for an entrepreneur interested in getting into space, you can certainly, my email is in the last page. You can reach out to me and we'll put you in touch. So do you have a strategy to invest to invest in more upstream or downstream businesses, or both are fine? I would say both are fine. We always discuss this internally. For example, we are looking into the area of fire management, disaster management. We're looking at partnering with a few external partners in this area and using space assets and space technology for fire management and disaster management. That is a very exciting topic for me personally. And I know there are a few startup companies already in this business. From Michael Thomas, is there an average length of time between initial discussions and accepting an outside startup into an incubator or partnership? We haven't yet established this kind of a cadence that many other incubators have, like a quarterly cadence for cohorts and so on. Right now, it's kind of like an open solicitation. But the general timeline, I would say, for entering the incubator to having a decision whether it's a go, no go, I would put that between around 6 months time frame. Within 6 months of incubation, there should be a clear answer as to whether there's traction with investors. And by the way, our model is to use external investors, not just our venture fund. So when we just launched our new startup, we had a number of venture funds from outside invest besides our own. So the answer is it's about 6 months of incubation that we think is about right. So removing debris seems to be almost an urgent problem, but who must pay for this? Very good question. I think the business model is that there will be certainly a market for removing debris. There are a number of companies that I would suspect would be, or customers that would be interested in removing debris. Besides government agencies, there would be insurance companies and actual constellation or spacecraft providers may want to also be part of that marketplace. Space companies seem to have a hard time hiring. What are your thoughts on space workforce development? Wow, that is a good question. That is a challenge. I've recently read, if you have seen from the Aerospace Corporation, a strategy report on the lack of talent or investment in the workforce of the future for the space industry. So I think that's a real problem in general. I'm hopeful that for our incubator, we are strategically located in Pasadena, in the ecosystem of Caltech, JPL, Southern California, UCLA, USC, and many other companies. So I do believe that for a lot of what we want to do, there is talent available in our general area of Southern California, but long-term is certainly a problem. So I think I've answered this question. Is there work being done in large-scale 3D printing, contract crafting for lunar stations and bases? There are studies. I'm familiar with studies in this. In fact, how to do a 3D printing of a shelter on the surface of the moon. So the answer is yes. I would look into that. There are examples and ideas of sourcing material from the moon and then do a 3D printing using a large robotic arm of a human shelter on the surface of the moon. Is there a Silicon Valley of space? Thank you, Regis Hamlin, for suggesting that. I would like to think that it should be Pasadena, and I would love to brand one of our visions is to generate a Silicon Valley for space in the JPL, Caltech, Pasadena area. That is one of my dreams, and that's a beautiful question.
Great.
Which aspects of AI do you see playing a key role in space technology? So very fine questions. There's a number of topics. If you look up some of the publications of people like Steve Chen, C-H-I-E-N, as one of the sources, we have been looking at a number of areas of AI, including planning and science opportunity identification in real time. For example, looking at craters, looking from orbit, determining where to look for science opportunities. So there's a lot of onboard AI kind of algorithms for planning and scheduling. Certainly the rover, Perseverance rover, had a lot of onboard autonomy for safe landing, hazard avoidance, precision landing. The rover itself has a lot of onboard autonomy and AI algorithms already in existence. Vision processing is a big deal, and certainly that's part of it. I personally am interested and have looked into the past. We've had studies on how do we define missions to go into interstellar space and have autonomy that would last a century or more. And in those cases, I'm particularly interested long-term in spacecraft self-awareness. How does a spacecraft develop self-awareness and the ability to self-heal and survive centuries? And with that, I think I'm done.
Maybe a brief one question for you, Leon, is about commoditization of satellites and the ability of corporations, countries, various countries beyond the US and some of the main satellite
Absolutely.
companies. What do you think about that?
It is here today. Companies like Blue Canyon Technologies have been acquired by Raytheon, Millennium Space Systems by Boeing, Surrey Space Systems, General Atomics, and so a number of small satellite builders have been acquired, and there's more emerging. So spacecrafts are becoming a commodity. That's why our company that we've launched is not in a spacecraft business. We find spacecraft to be a commodity. You can buy today a satellite for $1 to $2 million pretty readily. What used to be before a dream or a domain of big countries or corporations, now Ravi can launch his own satellite into space. and you can do that by shopping around a satellite. And so small countries, emerging nations can do that quite readily. Corporations can do that. Universities are doing it, building nano satellites and so on. Even high schools. I've been recently approached by a group from Israel that is doing a joint Palestinian-Israeli CubeSat mission into space. So it is a goodwill gesture. It's developing peace and goodwill amongst nations, and it's generally available as a commodity.
No talk on space is complete without this question, and feel free to go beyond your scientific view to your spiritual view. What is your personal view of life out beyond Earth?
Well, I'm 100% convinced that we will find life beyond Earth. It could even be within our solar system. So we are looking at certainly at Mars. We have a mission going to Europa in a few years. There's mission that NASA has to Titan, moon of Saturn. And so we are going to habitable worlds. We are going to places in our solar systems that can, and perhaps have in the past or today, harbor life. Now that's a huge leap between life form in some form versus intelligent life, which is usually the next question. But I think we will find life possibly within our solar system, but certainly outside as well. We have identified thousands of exoplanets. That means those are planets around other solar systems, many of them that have similar characteristics to planet Earth.
And a flip side of that, do you see us sort of going and colonizing other parts of space?
Absolutely. I think we don't use the word colonizing, but certainly settling and habitating on the moon and Mars for sure.
Great. What a wonderful presentation and set of questions. I thank you, Leon, for this great conversation, and I'll hand it over to Matty.
I just want to say the same thing. Thank you so much, Leon. I feel like we all learned so much, and I can't wait to set up the next event with you so we can dig more into these different technologies and projects that are going on. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for your great questions. And we hope that you join us for our future events. So I dropped the link to our meetup group. Make sure to register, and thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye, guys.
Thank you all, and thank you for hosting this, and indeed wonderful questions, and thank you again.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thank you.
And my dogs behaved.
They did. They did. Good job. They get extra treats today. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you.